Being a twin is something that is not too common. It is actually reported that 1 out of 67 pregnancies are multiple births. Something that is less common is being a conjoined twin, which happens 1 out of 200,000 births. Though we have seen TV shows about people that have this, there is a story that everyone forgets. The story of the most famous set of conjoined twins, Chang and Eng bunker. 2 men that would father multiple children and try to attempt a normal life. The fable first starts with both brothers being born in 1811 in Thailand, to a single mother whose husband passed away right before the boys were born. Now see, the boys had a pretty decent childhood. Their mother encouraged them to exercise their connecting attachment enough for them to play, swim, and be able to help the family by learning how to handle a boat. It wasn't until their teens that the abnormality was seen by a British merchant hunter, Robert Hunter, who in 1829 first thought they were some sort of tormented animal. Though he wasn't the first influential person to find the pair of twins. The king of Siam, Rama III, first saw the gentlemen. They almost became the king's prized possession in a sense, with him wanting to show them off at his court to other important political figures. And it took a long time before Hunter was able to actually get possession of the boys. And it took also multiple other Americans to help, one including the American sea captain Abel Coffin, who somehow won over the king with a telescope and a troupe of temple dancers. But the twins' mother got some monetary value for when the boys signed their contract, and with that, they were off to the New World. They traveled all around Canada, eastern United States, Cuba, and Europe, but they were treated really poorly, and as slaves to Hunter, with all the money being made pocketed by him. It took them 10 years before they were allowed to negotiate their freedom. This is where the story gets even weirder. With them gaining their freedom, they bought some land in Mount Airy, North Carolina, which they both went and found women in the town, 2 sisters, Adeline and Sarah Yates. And with this, Chang and Eng maintained separate households between both wives, even though they couldn't separate themselves, the households each being exactly 1.5 miles away. See, they alternated 3-day visits with each wife, respectively, and they both fathered multiple kids with each wife, Chang having 11 and Eng having 10. Many locals saw this pursuit of a normal life and the twins in general as monstrous and devilish. This can be seen where they made their marriage known by riding an open carriage with both spouses. And to say the least, this irritated the town people even more, to the point that they smashed the windows of the spouse's father's house. It put both spouses in a stressful position, something that the brothers didn't want, which they actually offered to be separated for their spouses prior to the wedding. But it was just too dangerous, and at the last minute, the wife stopped them from actually doing it. Though the weirdest part of their residency in America is that they were discriminated just based on their disability, and not the fact that they were a minority during the Civil War era in the Deep South. Actually, many people treated them as being white and not Asian at all. And they fulfilled this with doing horrible things as owning slaves and supplying the Confederacy with money. This is where the story takes a turn, for the worst for the brothers. With the defeat of the Confederacy came the loss of their income being generated from their plantation. The slaves they owned were set free, 2 of their daughters had died during the time, and the money invested in the Confederacy was lost. Chang and Eng fell to a low point, but went on one last tour with the one and only P.T. Barnum, who was touring Europe, though this didn't suffice the pain that the brothers felt. What they did lend to was alcohol, especially with Chang. Chang's addiction to alcohol and the mix of Eng's love for midnight poker caused a bad combo. It eventually caught up with Chang and he had a stroke. Eng tried his best to nurse his fallen brother, whose leg was now useless and was now in a sling. It only got worse from there. When they returned from their trip from Europe, they tried to spend as much time with each wife, moving back and forth between houses, walking the distance. And one thing they didn't take into account was that it was winter time. And see, Chang caught a cold, and Eng or his brother realized that he did. And 2 days later, Chang died from bronchitis. Eng waking up to this that morning, He tried his best to wake up his brother, but nothing worked. He was later hit with the realization that Chang was dead, and that put a fear into the man, a frenzy, to the point that it caused great pain to see his brother die. A bond that was so strong that it caused him to die too. With his last words, "I'm dying," drawing his brother towards him, he uttered his final words, "May the Lord have mercy on my soul." And with that, both of them died. A bond between siblings that couldn't be pulled apart physically or mentally. Chang and Eng's life was one that was messed up and distorted by the view of America as just a circus act, but I think there's an interesting foothold to their life. That oddity has a feeling to have some sort of normalcy. You can now see their cast at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. With that, thanks for watching.